What's happening in DFF Army? I've been doing a bunch of short videos and film reviews, but today I want to do something a little different. I want to go over the dynasty landscape and positional transition periods, as I like to call them, in the NFL and in dynasty. I think this is something that might be kind of a simple concept once I get into it, but I think it's pretty underrated in terms of how people use it to strategize in their leagues, strategize in the off season, and just kind of look at dynasty fantasy football and the landscape as it changes over time. So I guess the way I want to start talking about it is explaining a little bit of what I'm talking about right now, and I'll get into kind of how I would strategize around it and kind of what my strategy would be going into a dynasty startup. I actually am going to also show you guys a dynasty startup that I did with one of my podcast listener leagues, the third one we've done so far, SuperFlex Dynasty tight end premium, 1.5 on that premium, full PPR otherwise. Start 10, 25 man rosters, 5 taxi squad, pretty standard stuff, really good scoring, really good setup. We enjoy it a lot, but it's I think it's a good example of how I would approach it. So I want to kind of show that. So let me explain a little bit what I mean by transition periods. Okay, so when I'm talking about transition periods in the NFL and in the dynasty landscape, I want to point to a few examples of transition periods that have already occurred or are currently taking place right now. And then I'll explain one that I think is happening in front of our face, and then one that I think we could maybe try to predict and get ahead of our league mates, get ahead of the community on maybe if they're not thinking about it like this, right? Okay, so the first one's going to be talking about the wide receivers, right? Think about Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, Odell, maybe because of injuries, but this whole group of guys who have been kind of the studs, the mainstays of the wide receiver position for the last 5+ years, right? Now they're starting to fade out, whether it's age, injury, whatever. Their value is tanking for sure in dynasty. I mean, you can't get what you were able to get for Devontae Adams, just a year ago. But now we're looking at guys like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Garrett Wilson, Drake London, Chris Olave, right? All of these guys come in and take over the wide receiver position. It's already happened, right? You've seen it. You can't really take advantage of it. There's not much you can do about it except, go get those players for whatever the values are, and that's that. Okay, we can look at the quarterback position, right? Looking at Tom Brady on his way out right now, retired. Aaron Rodgers, 1 foot out the door. Maybe he'll play for the Jets. Who knows? We'll still see. Think about Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, right? Ryan Tannehill, all these guys who have been, again, mainstays on your roster at the QB position are fading out. And we've seen Joe Burrow, we've seen Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, all of these guys come in and take over now, right? Transition periods happen. You can't get Burrow for that cheap price you could a year or two ago. You can't get Hurts for that cheap price you could a year ago, right? Patrick Mahomes is virtually unattainable. So you kind of see what I'm talking about, right? These transition periods were happening, and a lot of us may not have been paying attention or really thinking about it this way. So it just went by our faces, and we either got these guys in our rookie drafts or there really wasn't anything we could do about it but pay value for them, right? Pay the current market value for them or pay above market value for them if you really want these studs. So now let's look at the running back position, okay? This is one that I think, and I'm sure other people have noticed, is currently going through a transition period, right? You're looking at Dalvin Cook, you're looking at Derrick Henry, CMC even, right? Austin Eckler, like guys at the top end of the running back spectrum over the past 5-10 years are just fading away. 5-10 years, they don't last that long. Past 5 years are fading away, right? So we're getting to this point where who are the guys now, right? It's Jonathan Taylor, maybe people are kind of souring on him. Breece Hall, people love him, but injured. Bijan Robinson, obviously, Dynasty 101, not even in the league yet, right? The running back 101, not even in the league yet. That's how fickle the running back position is. But you can see we're going through a very, very stark transition period right now. And with that, it makes me want to avoid the position altogether, especially in drafts. Like, do I want to go trade for these guys? Not really. I want to go after the youth. I want to go after the young guys. I want to go after the guys with upside. Brees Hall is definitely the kind of thing. But for me, I'm definitely just trying to get into the 23-24 draft. Maybe get one of these young guys, a Saquon and Etienne, somebody with some upside, and then play it out from there, right? What I like to call, what we in the industry, in the community, like to call hero running back, right? That's I think, just peek into the next part of this when I get into the draft. That's my strategy. It's been for the last year or so. And it can change with the dynasty landscape. If the running back position had a plethora of them, you wouldn't need to necessarily do it this way. And maybe I would be drafting slightly different. But that said, we'll get into the draft in a few minutes. What I want to focus on here is the final position, the tight ends, right? And like I said, I think the first two, the wide receiver and the quarterback, those have already gone through their transition periods, right? We're already seeing that new flock of wide receivers and quarterbacks that are going to be there for the next 5+ years. Okay. Running back, maybe we can still take advantage of it. If your league mates don't care, if they're still in on that other group, that older group of running backs, you can kind of just move on, get out. But the next position is the tight ends, right? Tight ends, which is just, the landmines of fantasy. It's the fantasy graveyard. It's fantasy wasteland, rather. It's tough out there with tight ends. Obviously, after the top 2, 3, or 4, however you want to look at it. For me, top 2. But what I'm looking at is there going to be a transition period here with tight ends, or just where we're at now? Looking at where we're at now, I'm thinking about, Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews are the only 2 tight ends I really want. And after that, I kind of want out and I want to search for the next group, because I do think that we're approaching a transition period. Now, maybe not everybody sees it because they're into TJ Hawkinson. They're into George Kittle still, right? They're into Kyle Pitts, which is not a bad idea. He's still young and has plenty, of room to grow. So I'm not down on Kyle Pitts. Maybe he's a guy you can throw in there in the top 3, I guess. I've never been super high on him, but I obviously understand why he's an elite dynasty asset. But some people might want Goddard in there and all that. And I do think those are fine dynasty assets, don't get me wrong. But for me, I'm trying to kind of get ahead of the community, get ahead of the crowd, get ahead of my league mates, and predict that maybe most of these guys are going to fall off outside of Andrews, Pitts, and Kelce. And Pitts is just too pricey to ever go get, right? For me, with the risk involved, he's just too pricey to ever go get with the risk involved. And unless I get one of those 2 or 3 at a good price, go after these young guys in the next class. Like, I do think Michael Mayer, after actually watching his film and digging in, he looks like a guy who fits the mold of one of these tight ends who can actually perform like Kelce, like Gronk, like Andrews. He has that build. He has that movement ability. And I think that he possesses all of the skills needed to be a top-end fantasy tight end. Now, am I going to go pay up a first for him? Probably not, especially high end, because tight ends take time. That said, I do think there's a few guys in the 2023 class who could fit the mold. Some later round guys, maybe a Will Mallory or something like that. One way or another, it may be the year after this. It may be Brock Bowers. It may be somebody else in the future. But the point is I wouldn't be investing tons of capital in this tight end group that we currently have in the 2023 dynasty landscape. Other than Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews, I'm pretty much out. So let me get into this startup draft that we did about a month ago, 2 months ago maybe, and let me show you how I would draft in the current dynasty landscape with everything I just talked about with transition periods in mind. Okay, so let's hop into that right now. All right, sorry if I'm looking away a little bit here while I show you the screen and talking about this draft, but it is what it is. But yeah, please enjoy my Seinfeld Verse The Office banner. Shout out to my guy on Twitter at AussieGuyAJ. He's in this Dynasty Listener League, and he does the banners for this. I'm not sure if he's out here trying to do it for everybody, so don't blow him up, or maybe do. I don't know. But one way or another, love this about MFL. And yeah, let's get into this startup, right? So I want to talk a little bit about how I use the positional transition periods and how I manage my draft in the current dynasty landscape, right? For me, hero running back is the way. That's kind of what I said before. You can kind of modify it and do whatever you want with it, really. But I think the goal is to not select too many running backs. And for me, it's one running back in the early rounds and then fade it until double-digit rounds as long as I can stand it. That varies. If you go 10th round, so be it. I like to try to wait a little bit longer, and that's kind of what I did here. So that's one piece of it. The other piece of it for me, discussing kind of the positional transition periods, I want to prioritize quarterback because while we have gone through that transitional period, there are guys like Fields and Lawrence and some uncertainty in the middle part of it while we're getting these new rookies in here. So I do want to prioritize that in the startup of a SuperFlex Dynasty League. And I also want to prioritize tight end because they are going through a transition period. And if I can get one of the top two, why would I not do that, secure it, and not have to worry about the transition period, right? Because again, rookies, young guys, very uncertain at the tight end position or take time to develop, even if they're good, even if they're good. Now, maybe Michael Mayer beats that mold and ends up doing it year one, so be it. I don't like betting on it necessarily if I don't have to. So for me, I just want to get it early, and that's what I did here. So I was the 12th pick in this draft, and the way I did this was going Dak Prescott and Mark Andrews first. And the reason I did that was because this group was pretty sharp, and they went Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Lamar Jackson, Fields, Josh Allen up there, right? So the quarterbacks were thinning out, and I could have probably gone to Deshaun Watson, who at 209 is a very good value. Let me say, I was thinking about going I was thinking about going Deshaun Watson and then going Dak Prescott or Mark Andrews. I was thinking about going Deshaun Watson here, and then even going Dak Prescott again and just doubling up on QB and Superflex and getting two elite, or going Mark Andrews. And I decided that I just didn't want to take on the Deshaun Watson uncertainty. And I think that Dak Prescott is a great asset with the weapons that they're adding in the team trajectory. So I thought he was a really good, secure asset, despite what some people may think. He has that top 5 upside. We've seen it. So I got him at 1.12. I love that. And then I go and snag Mark Andrews, who I think is an absolutely elite tight end asset. Whether Lamar Jackson's there or not, he will be peppered with targets. So that's a guy I want to secure, right? Those are two guys I want to secure. I could have gone Kyle Pitts, but not really what I wanted to do. I could have gone Travis Kelce, but I thought the youth is the best option there at the time, right? With Mark Andrews, he's still very young for a tight end and has plenty of years ahead of him. So love what I'm doing there. Again, prioritizing QB and tight end. So we go down, Breece Hall, Christian McCaffrey here, 302, pretty good value. You see again these, wide receivers, 305 up here, going really high, which is great. I mean, it's the transition period, we know. Okay, so Josh Jacobs goes the pick before me, and then somehow Stephon Diggs falls to me here. Now, I'm talking about youth and all that stuff. Stephon Diggs is plenty young, an elite asset with an elite quarterback. At 312, the 4th round, I think it's a steal. So just kind of the value pick there. I'm a value hawk. That's what I want to do. If value falls to me, I'm absolutely going to take it regardless, okay? Then 401, here's my hero running back pick, right? Hero running back, Travis Etienne. Some people may not agree with Travis Etienne being an elite asset or having the upside or, all that, with Doug Peterson saying they're going to add 300, 400, or 500 running backs. I think that he's going to be the guy who gets the most valuable touches in the offense with Trevor Lawrence, a team that is, on the up, is on the rise. I just think this is a good pick here in the 4th round to go hero running back. I could have gone Saquon Barkley. He's great, but I think that he has less years ahead of him than Travis Etienne if Etienne can get it together and become a stable asset, right? So I like that pick there. Let's head down to the 5-6 turn. Okay, so here's where things get a little interesting. I sniped 2 people here. Love that. Russell Wilson at the end of the 5th round, 6th round in the SuperFlex Dynasty League, I think is just an absolute steal. Yes, terrible year. Maybe he's absolutely washed. I don't think so. I think with Sean Payton there, I think with the new coaching staff, I think with the weapons there, another year away from Seattle, I think that Russell Wilson is going to have a bounce back this year. And I think that this is a great spot for him. Austin Eckler went before me. I wouldn't have taken him anyway, probably. I mean, maybe I would have. That's great value there, to be honest with you. But I do want to avoid those kind of assets. So I probably would have actually faded him and moved, because I really did want Russell Wilson here. And then I got Treylon Burks. Again, kind of going with that youth movement wide receivers. I'm fading running backs. I'm going, securing my quarterback position, who I think we know can be an elite quarterback asset. So getting that in this, fifth, essentially sixth round, and then backing it up with Treylon Burks, a young wide receiver who I think is going to dominate going forward. He's just a really, really, really good talent. And he just had a tough year with injuries. They didn't have a quarterback. Tannehill will be back, and hopefully they fix that quarterback situation going forward. So we go down after this into the 7-8 turn. And again, I'm keeping true to my strategy here, right? Fading running backs. I'm going Marquis Brown, and I'm going the 110. Okay, Marquis Brown, the 110. Maybe I get a running back at 110. Maybe I get a quarterback at 110. Maybe I get a wide receiver at 110. Who knows? Maybe it's Michael Mayer, and I go, shore up my tight end position and try to look forward at that transition period and get ahead of it, right? Those are things that I'm thinking about. But what I'm definitely not doing here is getting a running back. Okay, that's what I'm not doing here. So again, fading the running back. And then what I noticed here, and I think this is something to really point out, and I could have gone Derrick Henry. I could have gone Derrick Henry at any of my picks here, right? But again, I'm staying true to my strategy here and trying to fade these guys out because I know that after this year, Derrick Henry's not going to have much value left. He's just not. So I'm sticking to my strategy. I go Marquis Brown, 25, 26 years old, has plenty of years ahead of him, and he's a great dynasty asset and scores a lot of points. I go the 110. I already said what I can do with that. Then I realized that things are getting a little shaky here. We're getting Aaron Jones. Yeah, Mark Cooper, pretty good asset. That's good value. But it's getting shaky. So what I decided to do, because I'm noticing that double-digit rounds in the current dynasty landscape is an absolute wasteland. It's just somewhere you don't want to be. I traded up and I got the rookie 112 pick, right? Again here, I can go ahead and get running backs who are going to fill up the new group that is taking over in this transition period, right? That's kind of what I'm looking at here. Now, am I going to for sure get a running back? No, that's not for sure. Maybe again, I'll get another wide receiver because it's great value, but these are spots, the late first, early second round, where you do target the new group of running backs and try to get ahead of the market, right? Because we are in that current transition period. And that is my goal here, is to not buy into the current group of running backs that's in the league that's 27, 28, 29 years old and take on that dying dynasty asset. I don't want to take on the dying dynasty asset. I don't want to have them die on my roster, especially running backs. They lose so much value, they're just worth nothing. So avoid. Trade up from 10th, 11th, 12th round if you can and get up into, the 7th, 8th, 9th round. That is a huge part of the current dynasty landscape that I noticed in this particular draft. Go down here, I traded up, obviously, and then again, Cam Akers, Isaiah Pacheco, I could have taken those guys, Miles Sanders, but these are all guys who I don't think are going to maintain value. I just don't think they're going to maintain the value. I really don't. I'd rather have whatever is at 203 than Cam Akers or Isaiah Pacheco. These are not stable dynasty assets. They're just not. It's simple. We go down 207 at 11-12 over Keenan Allen, which is a great pick. Honestly, I was kind of hoping he would fall again, but I'm again kind of trying to, with my current roster construction, I didn't want to add old assets that were going to decline in value quickly. And I think, unfortunately, as much as I like Keenan Allen, that's what's going to happen with him. So we go down to my 1208 pick here, Alvin Kamara. Now I just really didn't think I could pass Alvin Kamara up at this point. And we are in the double-digit rounds. We're 2 rounds past what I said there, around 10, the start of the double-digit rounds. And I thought that this was a good time to get a second running back here, right? Alvin Kamara has tons of upside. I can trade him in the season if he comes back, end of season when he comes back, when somebody inevitably, buys into the hype. I can definitely get some return on investment here. So I thought that this could turn into an early second where there's none of those left, right? So that was my idea here with this pick. Get down to the 15th round, Isaiah Likely, back into my Mark Andrews pick. It's just getting kind of unclear here. It's getting uncertain. So you're just taking shots on Donovan Knight, backing up Brees. I thought he had a good year. 302, just buying into youth. Gardner Minshew, good quarterback pick there. 305. So you can kind of see down here Samaje Perine, right? I thought this was a great pick at the time, and he ends up being the Denver running back. And these are why you take these shots late and you don't worry about them early, because guys fall into this stuff all the time. I think there was one other one I picked, Pierre Strong, and some rookie picks. So yeah, I mean, this is, Naheem Hines. Ugh, that's gross. So yeah, this is how I would approach the current dynasty landscape, given what I talked about with transition periods and everything that's kind of happening, all the machinations, all the, everything that's happening in the NFL. I just currently think the best thing to do is fade the running back position, prioritize quarterback and tight end, and go ahead and get their wide receivers in the middle rounds, and then take some shots on running backs later, double digit rounds, try to get up into the, seventh, eighth, ninth rounds as much as you can from those double digit rounds, and not have to pick in that area, because it is a wasteland. It really, 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 really is a wasteland. So other than that, I think that just paying attention to positional transition periods in the NFL is super important to staying ahead of your league mates and staying ahead of the market on values. So if you can do that, I think that you'll have a leg up, and it could help you win championships. It really can. If you can build your teams around kind of what's happening in the NFL, it will really help you understand, what values are going to rise and fall based on what's happening with these position groups and the incoming rookies and the outgoing veterans. So yeah, just something to keep your eye on, something that you may already think about but not really focus on when building your teams, when making trades, when looking ahead. So something I wanted to point out, and I thought that the dynasty draft, the startup draft I did with the Dynasty Underdog listener leagues were just a great example of it. So if you like what we're doing here at the Dynasty Football Factory YouTube channel, please subscribe and follow me on Twitter at WillieBeemanDFF. Until next time, fam.